Picture your campus, the classrooms, labs, offices, residence halls, the common spaces. Think about the people you pass by or sit next to, the people you interact with. Some you know by name, others you have never met. Some look familiar, others might seem distinctly unfamiliar. These people are the members of your community, our community. When one of them is denigrated or treated unfavorably due to their personal characteristics, it diminishes us all. It could also be discrimination. Federal laws prohibit discrimination and require equal access to employment and educational opportunity for everyone, without regard to these characteristics. Washington state law includes these additional characteristics. University of Washington policy follows federal and state law and bars discrimination based on any of these. Discrimination can occur in any employment context. For example, if a decision is made about hiring or job assignments based on these characteristics, that could be discrimination.
Discrimination can occur in any educational context: recruiting, admissions, retention, or access to resources, including scholarships, teaching and research assistantships, faculty mentoring, or advising. It can also occur in contexts related to athletics and housing. Harassment is a form of discrimination. Harassment is unwelcome conduct that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work or learning environment.
Social science research demonstrates that discrimination and harassment occur for complex reasons at the individual, organizational, and societal level. On the individual level, we all possess limited knowledge about or experience with those who are different from us, people from other backgrounds or cultures. We tend to favor those in our in-group, people who are like us or with whom we feel comfortable. At the organizational level, established systems and structures of law and government often benefit those who already hold power or status. At the societal level, some laws, policies, and social practices have disparate impact on marginalized or disadvantaged individuals or groups. And finally, our popular culture often reinforces ideas about the appearance, beliefs, expected behavior, or religious practices of certain groups.
No matter the underlying motivation or reason for acts of discriminatory behavior or harassment, they are harmful and they are serious. The effects of discrimination and harassment are sometimes tangible and clear. They can also be subtle or invisible.
There are many terms related to discrimination. These include stereotypes, which are traits we associate with a specific group or category of people. These can be positive or negative. Isms, such as racism, sexism, ageism, ableism. These isms name the belief that one race or sex, one age group or set of abilities, is superior to others. Prejudice, a preconceived opinion about, or dislike or hostility toward, a person or group of people not based on reason or actual experience. Bias, a tendency or inclination toward or against a person or group, usually in a way considered to be unfair. Bias can be explicit, as evidenced by attitudes and belief. It can also be implicit or unconscious, opinions you hold, associations you make, or conclusions you draw outside of conscious awareness. Bias occurs when a person is actively favored or disfavored because of prejudices or stereotypes.
When prejudice or bias or an ism is acted upon in the work or educational environment, that can be discrimination. Unlike the other terms, discrimination is prohibited under university policy and is explicitly illegal under federal and state law. In some situations, people will justify their choice of words or actions by invoking the right to free speech. Let's review the relationship between free speech and discrimination. Free speech is protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. However, it does not mean that you can say anything, anywhere, without consequences. The university can set limits and expectations for speech in the workplace.
Student conduct policies set similar limits and expectations in learning environments. Free speech may amount to discrimination or harassment when it involves intimidation, actual threats to individual persons or to public safety, or disruptive acts that interfere with educational programs or the workplace. For institutions of higher education, academic freedom is a term related to, but not the same as, free speech. Academic freedom allows faculty, other academic personnel, and students to have open, robust, and critical discussions, especially on contentious or provocative topics, without fear of censorship or retaliation. Comments made or viewpoints expressed as part of intellectual debate in a class or other educational activity may be experienced by some as thoughtless, rude, or derogatory. The University of Washington upholds the individual right to free speech while prohibiting discriminatory or harassing behavior. Colleges and universities have a mandate to address sex discrimination in the form of Title IX, a federal law that protects people from discrimination based on sex in any education program or activity. Sex discrimination, in its many forms and contexts, can be difficult to explain and difficult to understand. Here's a simple definition. Sex discrimination occurs when someone is treated unfavorably because of that person's actual or perceived sex, gender identity or expression, or sexual orientation. It isn't just about male and female. It can occur between two or more people with the same or different characteristics.
It's important to note that sex discrimination can be based on a number of factors. These include sex, that is the physical sex characteristics you're born with and develop; gender identity and expression, that is how you identify and present yourself through actions, dress, and demeanor, and how these do or don't align with gender norms or with your biological sex. Sexual orientation describes the emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction you feel toward women, men, or both sexes.
You might describe yourself as straight or identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or queer, often referred to as LGBTQ. Queer can refer to gender identity and expression or to sexual orientation. Many of us identify with more than one of these characteristics. As a result, experiences of discrimination and harassment are often complex and difficult to describe.
What does sex discrimination look like? Not hiring or promoting someone because of their gender can be sex discrimination. Acting on a belief that women are more suitable for certain jobs or fields of study, or that a man's role as husband, partner, or father justifies a higher salary can be sex discrimination. Setting different performance standards for employees because of gender, or providing different work assignments or opportunities can be sex discrimination.
Discrimination due to pregnancy is also a form of sex discrimination. This could include firing someone or not hiring them at all, or discouraging participation in an assignment, project, or class due to pregnancy.
Sexual harassment is a form of discrimination and includes unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature. It is conduct that an individual did not invite and that adversely affects the employment or academic experience, or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work or learning environment. Although there is no definitive list of behaviors that constitute sexual harassment, examples include physical contact, such as touching, hugging, blocking someone's way, or other violations of personal space.
Verbal behaviors, such as jokes, slurs, innuendos, or comments which mention or imply sexual behavior or sex. This includes repeated requests for dates or requests to engage in sexual activity. Nonverbal behaviors, such as suggestive looks, gestures, or staring. Displaying, showing, or sending suggestive pictures, images, or text. This includes in-person or electronic communication methods, such as text messages, social media posts, or emails. Extreme forms of sexual harassment include sexual assault and stalking, as well as relationship, domestic, or intimate partner violence. Gender-based harassment can include any of these behaviors, but may not be sexual in nature.
These basic definitions and examples are useful as a starting point. However, sexual harassment is complex, so it's important to understand the nature and circumstances of such conduct. The more severe the conduct, the fewer number of times the behavior must occur to be considered harassment. For example, a single incident, such as one act of sexual violence, could be sufficiently severe. On the other end of the spectrum, a pervasive pattern of jokes or comments can amount to harassment. Although the effects of sexual harassment are usually negative and unwelcome, sometimes a promotion, a desirable work assignment, or an opportunity to conduct fieldwork is offered in exchange for a sexual act or relationship. This offer of favorable treatment, whether accepted or not, is still sexual harassment.
Situations involving favorable treatment can arise when there is a real or perceived power differential in relationships. For example, between a senior and junior faculty member, a supervisor and a subordinate, or a teaching assistant and an undergraduate. If sexual harassment is unwelcome conduct, then what about when the conduct is welcome? Even consensual relationships that begin in the workplace, classroom, or lab can be a problem. An employee who engages in a romantic or sexual relationship with a student or colleague can create a conflict of interest, either actual or perceived. The romantic or sexual relationship can cloud professional judgment and decision-making. For example, when evaluating academic status or progress, or providing career references for a student, or when hiring, evaluating, or promoting an employee.
Sexual harassment can also occur when employees and students are outside the workplace, lab, or classroom, at conferences, trainings, social events, in service learning, study abroad, or fieldwork experiences. At the University of Washington, students and employees often work together in remote or challenging locations. Intense working conditions, limited external communication, social isolation, and different cultural norms in foreign locations might create an environment where sexual harassment can and does occur.
Given the complexity of situations where sexual harassment and other forms of prohibited conduct can occur, how do we know when it might actually be happening? If you notice a change in someone's behavior, avoiding certain colleagues, not engaging in workplace activities or academic functions, calling in sick more frequently, or not coming to work or class at all, these can be signs of a problem. You may be thinking, if someone were being harassed because of their sex, gender identity, race, disability, or another characteristic, wouldn't they say something? Maybe. Well, a person who has experienced harassment certainly can say something to the individual responsible for the behavior or unwelcome conduct. that person is under no obligation to do so.
There are reasons why someone might not speak up. A power imbalance might make them afraid that speaking up would adversely affect their career opportunities. If the conduct is part of the work or learning environment, they may remain silent or play along just to fit in. They may fear retaliation for raising a concern or reporting the behavior, or they may believe that nothing will be done if misconduct is reported. If confronted, people engaging in harassing behavior might say things like, "Lighten up," or "I was just teasing. If you want to make it in this job, you're going to have to toughen up," or "Don't be so sensitive." Nevertheless, such behavior can have a real and adverse effect on the person experiencing it, as well as on others who may overhear or witness the conduct. Even if there was no intent to harass or discriminate, the comments or behavior may still create an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment.
So what can we do about discrimination and harassment? Each of us can make a difference. We demonstrate who we are as a community and who we are as individuals when we speak up and engage, or challenge someone who is behaving in a discriminatory or harassing manner. When we acknowledge that each of us may sometimes behave in a way that is unwelcome or offensive to others, either intentionally or unintentionally. When we listen and are receptive to hearing and learning about the experiences of others, especially when they differ from our own. In the same classroom or workplace, one person's experience may vary greatly from another's. These conversations or self-reflections can be difficult, awkward, and challenging. They are a critical way that we, individually and collectively, can address discrimination and harassment at the University of Washington. Individual action can make a real difference. Some situations, however, demand the university's intervention. The university supports a working and learning environment free from discrimination and harassment, and will hold individuals accountable when they are found to have engaged in prohibited conduct. The federal and state laws that prohibit discrimination and harassment include Title VI and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, Title IX, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Washington State Law Against Discrimination.
The university has incorporated the mandates of these and other federal and state laws into policies that prohibit discrimination and harassment. Those policies apply to university programs and activities on the Seattle, Tacoma, and Bothell campuses, as well as any other place such programs or activities occur.
When employees or students have experienced discrimination or harassment, the university encourages reporting so that it can respond. The University Complaint Investigation and Resolution Office, often referred to as UCIRO, has been designated to receive reports of alleged misconduct and, when appropriate, investigate those allegations. Some reports may be investigated by local or central human resources offices. All complaints of sex discrimination and sexual harassment by an employee, including professional and classified staff, and faculty and other academic personnel, should be directed to UCIRO. Allegations against a student should be made to the Title IX Investigation Office. Such complaints can also be made to the Office of the Title IX Coordinator. When a report about discrimination or harassment is made to the university, an intake and assessment will determine whether an investigation should be launched. If an investigation or hearing finds a person responsible for conduct that violates university policy, appropriate corrective or disciplinary action will be taken, including termination of employment or dismissal from educational programs. Disciplinary action is governed by the policies relevant to the individual. for example, the faculty code, student conduct code, or union contract.
At any point during or after an assessment or investigation, retaliation may be a concern. Retaliation is adverse action against an individual because they have made a report or participated in an investigation. Retaliation is prohibited by university policy. Retaliation can include unwarranted corrective action, a negative performance evaluation, or even being fired, unfair treatment in a class or lab, or an unearned poor grade or academic evaluation, treating the affected individual in a hostile manner, or encouraging others to do so. Retaliation can occur in person, or involve the use of social media or other electronic communication. Even if an investigation of the original complaint concludes that conduct did not violate university policy, an individual can still be held accountable for retaliation. Third parties who were not involved in a situation leading to a complaint can also be found responsible for retaliatory acts.
At any point in the intake or investigation process, supportive measures may be implemented to protect and assist the person affected by the behavior, with the goal of preventing ongoing or repeat misconduct. Supportive measures may include developing a safety plan to help minimize or avoid contact with another person in university classes, housing, activities, programs, or the workplace. There are many resources available to support students and employees who have experienced discrimination or harassment. Here are a few starting points. Safe Campus is a central office designated to provide support to students and employees with concerns about their own safety or the safety of others. Safe Campus operates a helpline available to university community members wherever they are located, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Response specialists can address concerns regarding any form of harassment, sexual assault, domestic or intimate partner violence, and stalking, as well as any threat to personal safety. Confidential advocates offer free services to any member of the university community affected by sex discrimination or sexual harassment. Anything you discuss with an advocate remains confidential unless and until you decide otherwise. At a meeting with a confidential advocate, you can share as much or as little information as you are comfortable with. You can learn about common reactions to sexual assault, sexual harassment, and related trauma. You can discuss how to practice self-care and heal through counseling, support groups, and other resources. You can discuss reporting options and request supportive measures. And you can learn about other available resources in your local community. The staff of the Office of the Title IX Coordinator can assist members of the University of Washington community with concerns or inquiries regarding any incident of sex or gender-based harassment, sexual assault, domestic or intimate partner violence, and stalking. The university maintains a website with information on these and other resources, as well as additional details about reporting options, and information on how to support a student, colleague, friend, or loved one who has experienced any form of discrimination or harassment. Discrimination and harassment aren't just abstract concepts. They impact people every day. People you know, people you pass by or sit next to in a classroom, workplace, or lab. Perhaps you have been personally affected. While the University of Washington maintains policies and processes to address misconduct, you and every member of the university community can do something to stop sex discrimination and sexual harassment.